Apple has been in the news recently, and today in this video, I'm going to walk through a potential trade idea going to the upside on Apple because I believe this is a big level breakout on the chart, and I believe there is some good potential here in the next 30 or so days. And so this is the Apple chart here. This is May 1st, 2026, and this is a big level breakout. So I did a previous video where I was talking to like, hey, this is a good trend line potential breakout, but we'll see what happens at earnings. This is actually in the initial day whenever they announced the CEO shakeup. And, it was looking like, okay, hey, maybe this could potentially go back down into some of these levels where you see down here. But it really wasn't that big of a shakeup, really wasn't that big of a deal to investors, to big hedge fund. They thought, this is maybe even a good direction. And so look what we saw here on earnings. So we actually just had earnings. I was waiting for this to see where potentially we could go earnings. If there was an initial downside move, maybe I was going to just sit on the sidelines. But this big initial move up, I think this is a big deal for Apple investors. And what I think is going to happen here is this all-time high will be broken. So this initial level actually just got broken, as we actually see here on the Magnet Zone indicator, great indicator on TradingView that we built, that our team built. And then here is another level that is looking, knocking on the door essentially. So what I think is going to happen here in the next 30 or so days, I think we are going to break this this initial level. Obviously, this is educational purposes. Take what you will, but this is what my belief is on Apple. I believe it's one of the strongest stocks on, with even in the mags, and I think there's just so much potential for future growth on Apple. Obviously, many folks have Apple phones. A lot of folks don't like them. A lot of folks love them. So, but I believe Apple is heading in the right direction. I think this is going to be a big break. So what I did also, so obviously I'm a bull here on Apple. I also have a debit spread in mind for this. And so what I actually did is I put that in our trade of the month club. So let me actually jump over to this. So this is our trade of the month club that we have for our members. And what we do is we put a ticker, an entry price, a target, and maybe even some option criteria if we like the option. And so I actually have a debit spread for this particular trade I threw in here. Right now, we actually have a special. It's just $19 a month. So if you're interested in something where you get just monthly trades, sometimes they'll be just, hey, grab shares here on, on whatever, BBAI or, Webull. There's been some, low dollar stocks. There's actually some stocks that we have actually crushed it. We actually had a couple Nvidia, Walmart trades. And so there's been a lot of great trades over the last several months. So you can get in there, you can grab access to this, just $19 a month if you're interested. So that'll be the first link in the description. So yeah, so I like the debit spread on this. So if you are interested, if you want that alert, if you want that trade, grab it. I also just like shares here. Actually, I'm in some shares as well. And so what I think is going to happen, where is the potential move for this? So I like the breakout here. I like an initial breakout. I would like to see it break another strong up move candle. And then what I could see happening here, especially what Apple likes to do, is it likes to retest. I think we could maybe retest some. The market maybe even could cool off a little bit. And I think even if the S&P 500 just, even if it goes down 3-4%, right, I think Apple could still maintain a sideways move. And so we could see something like that and then an initial breakout from there. So I'm not really seeing just a straight up move like we saw on the S&P 500. But typically with a breakout, with a strong breakout resistance point, what will end up happening is a big initial move up and then maybe some sideways chop from there. And then from that, we'll either form a flag pattern or even a triangle pattern. And then that will be an initial leg up the upside. Where could we target it? Well, if we get that initial move, what I like to do, and this is typical. So let's just say it goes up to this initial point. So I'm just going to just assume here that we go up here and we go up to, let's just even say 300. I think 300 is probably a move that would make sense. So let's just go 300. So if we do something like this, and then it goes sideways, like we were saying in the flag pattern, what this will do is we can take this initial price, right? You can take this initial price, and let me actually delete this, And what you can do is then you could target that for the upside. So this could potentially be something like that, where it could go up to 3. So we got about 345, really round numbers, probably 340 would even make the most sense there. So that's a 17% upside move. And when I say all that, well, with a debit spread, you really don't, you only need about 2. So the debit spread that I issued in the trade of the month, we only need about 2%. So we actually don't need very much at all. We just need this level rate here to hold. So this basically, so Apple could go up, you can even go down, right? And so as long as at the expiration date, it is above this level rate here, it's going to be a great trade. So that's the trade that I got on in the trade of the month. Like I said, if you're interested, go ahead and grab that. But yeah, that's the Apple trade for today. That is what I like for here at the beginning of May. I think markets will start to cool off a little bit. I mean, it's going to have to maybe go sideways. But like I said, you know, S&P 500 has the same kind of level here, and essentially this is what I'm thinking with Apple. So you see this big breakout, right? This big breakout, then this sideways move. You see that right there, and so that's kind of what I am envisioning Apple could do here in the next, was if it can break this level. Now it's going to have to break this all-time level. What we don't want to see, right? What we don't want to see is for it to bounce this and then just continuing to just bounce, and then it can't break it. What that's going to do, that's weeks. That is a weak pattern. That is a weak trading pattern, and we do not want to see that. We do not want to see that just continue to bounce and go sideways. We want it to break out. We want that initial breakout and then retest, right? And then we can retest. That's what I like, because if we start to see it bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce, what typically will happen, you see this big breakout right there. Let's actually see an example of it prior. So this is something like this, right? This is what I would not want to see, right? So in all-time highs, you know, we break that, we try to break it, can't, try to break it, can't, right? So these are the two levels, and what you'll, a lot of times you'll see is this goes right back down into some of these zones before you get that move up. So we want to see this move, right? We want to see this breakout. We don't want to see this one. And actually what's cool about this is the magnet zone got the bounce, and then the magnet zone got the breakout. Wow, that's actually great. Let's actually go back in time and see that. So I love doing this with some of these indicators because, you know, some of these trades are just incredible at support resistance. So right here, we saw this. So let's actually go back in time on Apple here on October 24th, right here on the daily, or October 18th, 2024. So you see this initial, it was trying to knock, it was knocking on the door, was trying to break out. It did not. And in fact, we actually we issued a bounce sell on this particular asset with magnet zone, and it just continued to go down sideways. Then let's actually go ahead here. So this was the initial breakout. So you see how important this level was. You see that. So initial bounce, and it's like, all right, let's go try to break this again. And in fact, it did, a big initial breakout. So that's what we want to see on Apple. And then obviously we know how that plays out from there. Can you fast forward? And that is the initial breakout right there. So this is interesting because this didn't even go back into this at all. But basically it just kept going straight up. And so we could see that. We actually could see that as well. But again, I think that initially, let's just go like this. I think what Apple's going to do, it's going to go up, go maybe sideways a little bit, and then do that initial break up to the upside. So we'll see what happens on Apple, but I believe that could be a big time opportunity. Like I said, if you want that debit spread, go ahead and grab it in our trade of the month. And if you were interested in that, if you have any comments, questions, things like that, also hit us up in the description below. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.